Hello, Solo Board Game Guide here with another game overview, and this is perhaps the pride of my collection, Renegade by Richard Wilkins, better known in the solo board game community as Ricky Royal. Renegade is a 1-2-5. I had to look it up because I've only ever played this solo. No, I haven't. I played it 2-player as well. But I generally play this solo, and it is by far my favourite solo experience. In this game, you will play one of a number of hackers basically working within a police state with a supermassive computer. Think The Matrix, something that's meant to look after you but can be viewed as malicious. And you can try and take down these supermassive computers, or SMCs, by playing a series of cards to chain together to make commands, and also positioning your elements on the network. So let's have a look in the box. By Victory Point Games, if you hadn't already realised, makers of Nemo's War and quite a few other solo classics. Victory Point Games is someone I follow on Kickstarter because they always do an excellent solo mode. So the manual, obviously very, very important, not only because it has the rules, but I'll be honest, some of the language is a little bit impenetrable. It really put me off. Thankfully, Ricky's done some excellent tutorial videos and he's very active in the BGG community. But one thing about the game is it's got incredibly immersive theme, to the point where to a new player it's a little bit intimidating. We have the different tokens which you'll place on the board, the network, the board being the network of the supermassive computer that you're trying to take down, and the tokens you put on, and there's data ports, neural hubs, propagators, replicators. But more than that, we also have data nodes, uplinks, viruses, replicants, rootkits, guardians, firewalls, sparks, flares, countermeasures, SMC cards, command. It goes on and on and on, and it is really quite intimidating to begin with, but actually not too bad once you get your head around it. I recently did a video called Too Many Bones Isn't As Complicated As You Think, but it does actually feel a little bit like Renegade perhaps is as complicated as you think, at least to begin with. It does get easier. So inside the box, first off we have the server tiles. Now the server tiles have a home partition and other network partitions, and these will lay out and connect together to form a network. They're also two-sided for a different game mode that I haven't yet tried out, but this is the standard game mode, and each of these servers have their own name, which again adds another layer of confusion to begin with, but perhaps immersion in the long run. So we have faith, virtue, justice, salvation, and freedom, and they are, when you read the fluff of the game, they are very thematic names. And in fact, the main SMC is called the Mother, and is designed to look after humanity. It is a very clever, well put together backstory actually. So we have the server tiles. These all, I'll just make a small network here. This isn't legal before you comment to tell me that this isn't a server approved by the rules, but I'll just lay that out there. And what you'll do is, we have a bunch of tokens. This yellow tray isn't included. To be honest, if you want to avoid the loads of little plastic bags, you'll need some kind of container, I think. These are all the various uplinks and installations and things that you'll place on the board to try and fight the computer. But before we get to that, let's have a look at some of the characters. The characters are played by little standees. There's a bag of these. Don't yet have a container for this, but there is actually on Thingiverse an excellent insert for anyone with a 3D printer, which I do, and I'm going to do a video on that soon. But these are the little standees. Let's see if we can zoom in. There's good old Rupert. And the double-sided Angel Nitrate. We've got the twins, so you actually play those as a pair. So there's a whole bunch of different characters, and accompanying each of these characters, you'll generally, you play just one. It's possible to multi-hand this game, but you can play as just one solo, true solo. With each of those standees or characters comes their own deck. Now this is the Kickstarter edition with a few extra goodies. I have these little tuck boxes. I don't think this is available in retail, but these are the different characters, and the red character playable with 2 alternatives. Rupert's just Rupert. Same with yellow, blue, a couple of different alternatives, and green. I think he's called Monty, an alternative there. And along with that is the player cards, which again have the 2 alternates. And I'll go through these in a separate video for each of the characters. Now, one of the reasons why, despite all the impenetrable language, it's actually not as bad as you think eventually, is that you have on the player board colour codes. And I'll be honest, after trying to teach this to a couple of people, you end up just referring, instead of saying, oh, I'm going to locate a virus on partition 2 of faith, you end up just saying, I'm going to put a green one on 3. You say things of that nature until they get into the game, and then actually the language becomes really quite addictive, and you find yourself almost sounding like an extra from the Hackers film back in the 90s. It's great fun. So they're the characters, and each character has different strengths, so it can move across the board in different ways, or perhaps can add different installations. That's your end. The AI, regardless of whether you're playing 1 player or 2 player, you're playing against, it's a co-op game, you'll be playing against the computer, figuratively and literally. So these computers are played by one of a number of large tarot style cards. So each of these is a different computer which you'll face. There's even a simulation or tutorial computer to help you learn the game, which is a lovely touch and actually does help demystify. So that was another brilliant feature of this game. So once you've chosen your computer that you'll be facing down against, it will have a number of countermeasures. Now, countermeasures, shown by these symbols up here, are from this deck. So this is the SMC deck. I think this is another Kickstarter special. So I have, of course, sleeved my cards because that's the kind of thing I like to do. And we have, obviously just put this away not too well. So we have copper countermeasures. So this is like, perhaps think of these as levels of the game. So we have the copper one that you have to beat once you've beaten. Well, not necessarily actually. Once you've dealt with, you can actually lose and still move on to the silver countermeasures. And then finally, the gold countermeasures. Each of these will make the board behave in different ways. So that is also backed up by special rules. So if you think of the possible permutations or combinations, I can never remember which one's which. There's just must be thousands and thousands of computers and different combinations of cards that can come out. So there's immense replayability of this. You know, I must have played this game probably about 25 times now since I've had it, and every game has been wildly different. I think I might have had the same cards a few times. So that's how the computer plays, and what the computer will be doing is trying to place these black tokens called sparks. And basically, the sparks, as they're placed on the board through the various logical statements printed on the computer and the countermeasures cards, they will eventually start to shift around the board, quite often through the use of these special heat transferred server dice. I might say a spark to yellow partition 2. And these things will start moving around. And if they do cluster, they'll start to place these installations. So if that happens, they're basically an even more powerful installation by the computer, which will start to limit the things you can do. And if you ever try to place one of these tokens and you can't, you immediately lose the game. And these are almost a little bit like the viruses in Pandemic. You know, they'll cluster, and then once we hit 3 in a place, it'll ping off and start to propagate across the board by what the game calls a chain reaction. There's a couple of different types of these. flares and sparks. I won't go into that too much now, but they are different ways, and I believe that's called a firewall. So again, in keeping with the theme, there's different ways to lose. There's very many ways to lose, in fact. So how do you actually win? Well, you win by accruing victory points, and that, I guess, is maybe a slight downside of the game. I do like a clear win-loss scenario, and technically, if you just make it to the end of the game, you have won. But I really like to think of the points, which are printed in the back of the manual somewhere. The points, unless I get 100 plus victory points, I consider it perhaps a loss. So that's what I always aim for, and I think I've only achieved that with the 25 times I've played, about 3 or 4. So there's plenty of challenge there too. So what about the actual turn by turn? What do you do when these, the cards are moving these around on their own? Well, what you do is you play your character cards, and you can also, there's a trade row which you can buy cards from what they call the Hack Shack, which is a nice touch. So even though there's lots of different boxes, they are all the same inside. You'll have a bunch of command cards, as they're called, and there's nice sort of cyberpunk style artwork on them. And the reason why the red deck is different from the purple deck is they just simply have a symbol on to differentiate. So in each deck you'll have cards with symbols, commands that you can play, and the commands themselves can either be used to, if you have 3 of a kind, 3 symbols, you can lay down a virus or a countermeasure of some description. That later on might kill a spark, for example. You might play a blue card to move your standee 1 position across the server. You might play a green card or a combination of green cards to deposit your links and then control your actions way across the board remotely from 1 position. And finally, you might play these replicants, these yellow cards, which will have the effect of turning the computer's malicious code into code of your own choosing. So really clever use of command cards. So you're actually physically putting these down, feeling like you're hacking commands into some kind of green text console, which is really nice. But further to actually just playing it to affect your avatar, you can use them in a shop type mechanic to buy new, better commands. So down this side here, this is what it's going to cost. So if I can, out of my hand, can cobble together a blue there, I need another blue, can have a blue there, and look, I've got a rootkit symbol, an X, which is like a wild card. I've got 3 all of a sudden, and I can replace, in a deck building mechanism, this card, which allows me to do new, better things. So I can use it to buy or to move, but I can also perform this action that usually executes like an instant in Magic the Gathering, if you've ever played that. So all these fantastic cards, there's just so many different things you can do and pull off the most insane actions. And your turn, you're just throwing down cards, moving avatars, pulling out combos. It's just magical to play, and is, I would say at this point in time, by far the best solo game I've played. So is there anything else I can show you? I'll do a quick setup guide, which is standard now for this channel. I'll do a how to set up a speed setup guide. We'll do a how to play and a playthrough. I've done some Deep Space D6 playthroughs, which are going down very well. I'll link to those up there. But I just can't sing the praises of this game highly enough, which is Renegade from Victory Point Games, designed by my YouTube board gaming hero, Richard Wilkins. What an absolute treat, and I'll be doing some more videos on this. Pick a copy up if you can, by any means possible. Absolutely great. I'm so glad I got the Kickstarter version, because in it I got all these lovely deck boxes that I talked about, and I got a couple of upgrades
few booster packs which extend the game, expansions. I think they've got a third one in print. And I haven't even opened these because I haven't even scratched the surface of this, and I've been playing it, oh god, hours and hours and hours. And I'm just going to keep these as a little treat for later on. It's brilliant. I absolutely love this game, and you should check it out as soon as possible. So thanks for watching, and yeah, let me know in the comments if you have any recommendations, or let me know how you've been getting on with Renegade. As you gathered, I am a bit of a fan. So see you soon. Thank you.